Mother, tell your children not to walk my way.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this vid where it's going to be me talking about random wrestling stuff, so we'll see how this goes. I might start doing this about once a week, to be completely honest, so let's get going. First of all, thank you for the response for the YouTubers I think you should subscribe to. It meant a lot. I'm glad everyone seems to enjoy that vid. So let's see, let's talk about some random stuff. First of all, for those of you that don't know, TNA's, I tell people to subscribe to them, and then TNA's YouTube account gets suspended. Why, we don't know. I've heard somebody mention that maybe because their bandwidth was too high. I'm sure we'll find out. I'm sure it was some sort of weird thing that happened. And not what Ken Jones said. Ken Jones got on here and talked about a freaking WWE behind this. I doubt that, seriously. Anyways, so of course the big news this week that everyone jumped on was the Raw rating, which was horrible, and then we found out, for those of you who don't know, the Raw rating was flawed because the ratings people had a glitch in their system. We don't know how much better the rating is going to be. We don't know if it's going to be a lot, maybe a little bit, maybe 1 point. We don't know. But for everyone that doesn't know, now you know. It was flawed. And since I've made this while leading up to making this vid, I haven't been able to find if anyone has released the actual numbers yet, so we don't know. Let's see, there was some Ring of Honor news this week that I'd like to talk about. First of all, for those of you who don't know, because I always gripe that people don't talk about the bad parts of the promotions they like, Jimmy Rave has left Ring of Honor. He was a contracted guy. He had one of the pay-per-view contracts. Left Ring of Honor, was fired, something along those lines, was unhappy, and was told to leave. So he did. For those of you that have followed me for a while, have watched my Ring of Honor review vids, you know I'm not the biggest Jimmy Rave fan in the world. So to me, this is just kind of like, you know, because I do feel that there are other guys out there that could bring in that definitely could do the same thing Jimmy Rave does, and probably just as good. I have a lot more faith in Ring of Honor now after Joe and Homicide and Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles have all left, and pretty much I felt like they really haven't skipped a beat. I think that the shows before they left actually were worse than the shows since they left, so there you go. Also, the big news from Ring of Honor, well, one of the two big newses, was Ring of Honor is going west. They're going to be on the West Coast. They're going to be in San Francisco at Wrestle Fan Fest, I think is the name of it. I'll put a link up on this video. But basically, they're going to be playing San Francisco. It's like a signing convention, but they're going to be playing it for anyone that's in the area. If you can make it, I definitely recommend going. This apparently is going to be a fairly big show from what Ring of Honor is telling the people on the message boards. So there you go. The only other big Ring of Honor news was, of course, the Project 161. For those of you who don't know what that is, basically this is either an angle or it was a big, huge con, one of the two, perpetrated by fans. No one's really sure what's going on. I'm just talking about this because I have gotten a lot of questions. I have no idea about it. We'll just have to wait and see what the real thing is. I'm sure at the next Ring of Honor show we will find out, and of course a lot of people are saying that at the pay-per-view we will definitely find out what's up. Other than that, the other thing that I definitely want to talk about is this week the WWE released the buy rates for a lot of the pay-per-views for this year. I'm just going to want to go over that because I told Dante Savage that I would earlier this last month. I told him this. We were having a discussion about buy rates and what things needed to be, and just looking at buy rates overall, so I thought I would go over them. I'm sure some of you have probably seen them. For those of you who haven't, I will go over them right now. And also, I'm going to take an idea that P.S. Powers had. Yes, P.S. Powers had a good idea, in which he talked about TNA, and he talked about making, having your basic 4 big pay-per-views, and then making the other pay-per-views special. And I think that's something WWE needs to do as well, because if you're going to have 12 pay-per-views, which is the number they should have anyways, at the very most is 12, and I think they should actually have less than that, then you need to make the non-big pay-per-views, the non-big 4, into something special. And I'm going to go over how you would do that, and how I would necessarily do the pay-per-views for WWE. Well, we'll start with the Royal Rumble, and the Royal Rumble's buy rate was slightly down. This is pretty much known. This was announced earlier this year, but was still better than anything since 2002, except for last year. So that's actually pretty good news. A lot of people might say, well, you're looking through it rose-colored glasses. I like to look at things from all angles, to be completely honest. I think that's a valid point because you do have to compare things, go in trends, that type of thing. I couldn't find info on No Way Out on their buy rates. And oh, by the way, Royal Rumble, great pay-per-view. Everyone knows that. No Way Out, I couldn't find any info on the buy rates, but in my opinion, it's the worst pay-per-view every year. Should be dropped. And if we're going to do a Saturday night's main event, this is when they should do it, because I don't think there should be a pay-per-view between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, because I think it would make WrestleMania that much more special. And if they're going to be 4 hours anyways, I think that it would help a lot to do that. And then WrestleMania possibly had its biggest buy rate since 1990, which is pretty amazing. It's just an amazing number, without a doubt. It had over 1 million buys, just a huge, huge number without questions. Backlash had its worst rating ever, and I definitely think this is another pay-per-view that needs to be dropped in favor of another Saturday night's main event, because I think it does somewhat take away from WrestleMania and what makes WrestleMania special, in my opinion. And then we had Judgment Day. Judgment Day was actually up. Yes, a bad pay-per-view, and it was actually up from last year, and is the second best since 2002. However, I do think they need to get rid of the Judgment Day name and replace it with King of the Ring, because I think if you replace it with King of the Ring, you've added something that people want to watch the pay-per-view for, which is the King of the Ring tournament, which I definitely think they should bring back. Wrestling fans like tournaments. They just do. People like tournaments, period. And then we went to One Night Stand, which was almost, its buys were almost cut in half from last year, which really shouldn't be real surprising, since they really destroyed its uniqueness, to be completely honest. And I think this also shows that we, the diehard wrestling fans, do have a voice. I think we have a bigger voice than a lot of people think we do. I've always kind of felt that. I think, particularly when it comes to buzz around a pay-per-view and around an event, I think we have a lot bigger voice than what people usually give us credit for. But yeah, this needs to be made unique again, in my opinion. I think you do that by keeping this year's format, but replacing this pay-per-view with Vengeance. And that way you don't have, the kind of, like we had this year, where it seemed like we had 3 pay-per-views in 1 month. It was just kind of ridiculous. Vengeance, speaking of Vengeance, was slightly down, but was definitely due to too many pay-per-views back-to-back, without a doubt, in my opinion. I think that if you didn't have One Night Stand, I think Vengeance would have gotten a better pay-per-view, because it really wasn't that far down, to be completely honest. Next we have Great American Bash, and if you're going to do a Night of Champions, this is where the event I think you should do it, is Great American Bash. Great American Bash does have a pretty nice history to it. I think this would add to that history. I think it would do very well. So SummerSlam, one of the big 4, doesn't need any changes. Cyber Sunday does actually pretty good buy rates, and I wouldn't change that either. And then after Cyber Sunday, I would bring back Fall Brawl. And with Fall Brawl comes War Games. That's your gimmick for that pay-per-view without question. And War Games, great event. Apparently Triple H does want to bring War Games back, so there we go. Survivor Series. Survivor Series I wouldn't change at all, to be completely honest. I think it works. It's one of the big 4, so there you go. They don't always seem to be able to make up their mind if they want to use the elimination matches or not. It really doesn't matter in my opinion. Next we have New Year's resolution, and either you put the Elimination Chamber on this pay-per-view every year, or you drop this pay-per-view again in favor of Saturday Night's Main Event and move Royal Rumble up maybe a week, and or you make the Elimination Chamber always Saturday Night's Main Event. That's how I would change the pay-per-views for WWE. I think that would help the buy rates to some degree. You'd also be getting rid of at least one pay-per-view, which I definitely think they will. And I think it would just make the overall buy rates a little better. I think it would make the events a little better. I think it would give them some uniqueness and actually help the WWE out in that regard. I didn't do TNA only because TNA, I couldn't think of enough unique stuff for TNA, so that's why I didn't do TNA, for those of you that want to know. Like I said, just stuff I wanted to talk about, and I'm out.